I'm Michels, and I'm founder and executive director of Green Pastures Living. I've lived here in Oregon for 12 years, and as I've been developing my business, I've been in networking with other entrepreneurs, and that's where I met Sue. And we kind of have shared personal stories of going through and our passion for why we do what we do. And we'll filter some of that in, as well as our professional experiences and knowledge. And then you can introduce yourself.
Okay. I am Sue Peck. I am the owner of Evolution Financial. I do financial planning and investment management. And I wanted to be here because I met Annie at a networking event, and I really want to make sure that people are prepared for what comes in retirement and some of the costs that might be associated, and make sure that you have the right people around you as you get ready for retirement. Or go through that.
Yeah, so I just kind of wanted to take that time to, I think maybe just go to the next slide.
Sure.
As we just kind of, share what you're comfortable with. But I'm going to call him up first. Introduce. Yeah, so the question is just like your name and like what brings you here, what's your main takeaway that you desire from tonight.
Absolutely. I'm Emma. I live here. I grew up here. I was running a small business here. And while I don't know if I'll ever get to retire, my in-laws are, my father is, and so now we're kind of starting to navigate that journey of like, they're still young, but the next phase of life and how to support them in that, specifically getting my in-laws closer. My dad lives in Brooklyn, where I grew up, and my in-laws are employed. So just kind of how to build a community, how to plan financially, the housing situation, all that. And I've met Anne a couple times recently, and I think it's really cool. So I wanted to, support this and see what I can learn or offer.
Yeah, you're bad art, and maybe I could be called bad housing. That would really sell a lot of people.
It's relatable, right? Thank you.
I'm Dawn Grinnell. Lived in Fitchburg in Oregon all my life. Had several positions in Oregon. Was a bank manager at one time. I worked doing taxes. I finally retired out of the state of Wisconsin. And it's just an open road, what you plan on doing when you retire. I mean, some days it's fun, and other days it's like, I need to be doing something. So, met Ann at one of the meetings, and here I am again.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm Ruth Wainwright. I'm not retired yet. I moved to Oregon 35 years ago as a single mom raising my kids. They decided to move out of Oregon, and I just love it because it's safe and it's never have to go on the belt line. It's all these back roads. And I got into real estate. And I've been in real estate for about 23 years. And I came a couple years ago. I had a chat with Ann about. I came across co-housing as developing communities and how you can develop better communities. And so I've seen some of them in Madison, and I was just intrigued about the whole development process and how do you get the dirt and how do you change the zoning and who do you get the architects and surveyors and all of that stuff. So I just wanted to come and support her, but also just to kind of, like right now I'm not retired yet, but my focus is on helping seniors make that transition from their home to where their next step is going to be. And so it's gathering information on community living environments. There's some new life lease, knowing what life lease estates are, and just kind of learning about all the different dynamics of how you can create a community and have it be growable. And be, because my heart goes out to my seniors. My parents are 88, 92, and I see them going into the assisted living and the memory care side of things. So, aging in place is being familiar with your surroundings as you age. Does anybody important to everybody, I think, you know? And it gets harder the older you get when they just pick you up and plop you someplace else just to get reoriented. It's very difficult.
Yeah.
So, but I just want to learn and listen and, you know, see this community grow because I love Oregon, so I want you to come up with a really great plan that we can just
I do.
implement. So
It's not a bad plan.
it's good.
No pressure there.
No pressure.
No?
Thank you.
So I'm Mary Davidson. I've been retired for 3 years. I saw this announcement from Ann and I thought I've been wanting to support Ann in this endeavor. We currently live on South Main Street, a 2-story home, bedrooms upstairs, full bathrooms upstairs, realizing that eventually we're going to need a 1-story. My husband's still very capable, very talented. Replacing the doors, the insulation, the windows, you name it. You know, the house eventually will be ready to sell if we sell early enough, because otherwise pretty soon you've got to do everything over again. But yeah. So I'm not sure what I'm looking for, except to stay in this community, if at all possible. You know, a lot of my friends are here. I worked here my whole work life. Got a lot of connections. I feel comfortable here. I feel safe here. I mean, I know there's nasty stuff probably going on everywhere, but I can walk all around this community and I feel safe. I like that. I like that view.
Well, we're glad you're here.
We're Cindy and John. We recently moved to Oregon in the last year with the whole idea of coming to a community to age in place here. We moved from 2 hours away. Our 13 grandchildren live in this area. Our kids stayed here after they went to school. So our idea was to move while we were still young enough to reestablish community and make friendships that after living in one place for 60 years start over. So so we're here now and we're finding comfort level in the savings.
Oh, good, good.
We're Ann's new backdoor neighbors.
Yeah, but hopefully she likes the neighbors.
Yes, we're glad.
They're not too loud.
Only when all the grandkids are there.
Here.
It's fine. You're right by a park.
This is a bad angle.
Thank you.
Well, I'm Cheryl Cobb. This
Yeah,
is
that's
actually
it.
my second Green Pastures.
You hold it, you press
I
the
don't know if you guys
button.
like
Yeah,
Last year.
Yes.
We did the village hall last year because this wasn't open.
Yes, so I'm kind of looking to see if you know, more up-to-date information. Definitely interested. My husband and I have lived in Oregon for almost 50 years. In the same house. Although I should take that back. We did rent when we first got to town. But I've been working and I just recently retired finally from, I've been dabbling in part-time. I retired from Xerox after 32 years there. And, but I've dabbled in part-time because I always have to have a purpose. But we are looking for something and we don't know what exactly we're looking for. And so I've been very interested. Our name's been at Rolling Meadows for a long time. I'm not sure that's what we would be happy with. So that's why I'm searching on some alternatives. My husband would have been here tonight, but he wasn't really well. So
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, thank you. You make some great points. So yes, last year for November 13th, we were at the village and our talk was more of just, it was more of a small group conversation of our own personal journeys and what our, you know, things. And this is a little different tonight. And I like how you mentioned, so Oregon was revolutionary, I don't like to say the turn of the century. Rolling Meadows did come up as a senior living cooperative, and it has a very long wait list. And it's a great example of what can be done. And I feel like Oregon, has that precedent of like, it has that, but like, it needs a lot more. But yeah, just excited for all you and just, I never want to waste someone's time. Like, you go to those programs and you're like, why did I come? And I never want that to be part of that. I want it to be something that you take away something very valuable, and that it moves you to that next step along the journey. And I like what you also said of like in retirement. I think some of you all said that of just like, I don't really know what I'm going to do in retirement, and I need to find value. And I highly suggest you watch the TED Talk of the 4 stages of retirement. Have you seen that? It is really good. You can probably just Google, I think, the 4 stages of, I think it's 4 stages.
4 stages, I think so.
Yeah, like the first is the honeymoon where like, I just want to sleep in and do nothing, And then like, oh, I should do something today. And then like, oh, I'm overdoing it. And then you find like what you actually are going to do. That's just kind of it in a nutshell. BT says it much better than I do.
Oh, I don't know.
But yeah, that's definitely a good TED Talk is, this 4 stages of retirement.
Yeah, absolutely.
I did picture the M&Ms, and I know John likes M&Ms, and clearly we can share this, but I'm queen of object lessons, and I think that like when you're at the beginning of retirement, or even before retirement, like Emma and I feel like this is my retirement. I got 20 more years till I'm 65, so if I get it right in 20 years, I think that will be a success, right? But I feel like at the beginning of it, what we're going to chew on tonight is, at the beginning, the choices seem like a lot. But then, as we age, I feel like this will empty out and be less. And that's just the reality of it. Studies shown that as you age, you have less and less desire to face negative things in your life. So even like that, moving out or changing things, you don't have that desire to want to face that. So usually you just don't do anything about it. And unfortunately, that can be for the bad. And I feel like in some of our experiences, we want to share of like, it's better to make those choices and have those opportunities. And so if you go into your giveaway bags, the first giveaway is a notebook. Yeah, I know you brought your own notebook, but for those who didn't bring their own notebooks, I wanted you just to start thinking about what Sue will talk about in hers of the prompt of like, what is, your ideal viewpoint, or what start thinking about what is most important to you in retirement. So start having thinking about that. So just wanted to think about that, and then kind of the main map of tonight is I'll cover some housing options, and Sue will cover more financial options. And we'll go back and forth, and then we'll also talk about some of the other giveaways in the bag as they go with the MIT Age Lab. I'm not sure if you're familiar with. So MIT has this, how would you describe it? Research arm.
Right. Basically, it's a research arm that is studying how people age and what are the things that are important and need to be around as people age.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think one of the longevity economy book that I read was just like, retirement isn't just this healthcare problem of like, how are we going to take care of all these old people? Like that's not how we're going to view it. There's just so many other ways to think about it,
And it's not just a monetary problem either.
And it's not just a monetary problem either.
Right.
It's not just a housing problem. It's not just a money problem.
Yep.
But yeah, so I think that's kind of the way we'll approach. The next slide. Do you have a clicker, or do we just
Do this.
I mean, there's not that many slides.
Do we want to do the picture yourself?
Sure.
So we're going to do a little thing first before we start getting into all of the specifics on housing. So I want everybody to take a moment, close your eyes, and picture yourself in the retirement that you want to have. So as you're sitting in your house, or if it's an apartment, townhome, whatever it might be, picture yourself there. And what do you see when you look out the window? And what do you see when you walk out the door? Do you have a front porch? Are you in a hallway? What are the things that you see? And what are the things that you smell? Inside, outside. Is there fresh cut grass? Is there somebody's dinner? Do you have flowers? And what does it feel like to be there? Is it warm? Cool? What do you hear? Do you hear birds? Your neighbors? Somebody cutting grass? Somebody blowing leaves? What do you taste? What is dinner? Is it food that you've grown? Is it food that somebody's made for you? Is it food you've gone to the grocery store, you've gone out to eat? And who's around you? Do you have neighbors? Is it just you? You and a partner? You and a pet? What does that ideal retirement look like and feel like for you? When you have that, open your eyes, take a few notes in your notebook. Write down the things that are important that you want to make sure are there when you retire. Do you hear him in it?
Do you hear?
All categories on hold now, so I.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Well, what did it sound like?
all sound, yeah, okay.
What's the weather?
Yep. Think of your five senses. What do you feel? What do you smell? What do you see? What do you taste?
Now we could go with plan then, so we could go. Remember playing peanut? That was the only option.
Pretzel? Peanut butter?
Growing up, I was just playing peanut.
I think the peanut was a new thing.
Yeah. And not, there's no gluten.
Yeah. They were tan ones.
Yeah, there was tea.
I like the tan ones.
Yeah, I think that's a great place to start. I think COVID really made people realize that they didn't want. I remember hearing stories of people in big retirement communities like in lockdown. Okay, I don't want to have a shared hallway. I don't want the same ventilating system. You know, it made people think this is not where I want to be. But then I think there's other people who I've talk to seniors that like, I want to be in the city, I want to be among, what's going on, So I think we need to know what is ideal and what's in our picture. And so I just kind of wanted to start, we have this picture, and then I kind of, just the broad strokes of where senior housing is at according to AARP. This last year, I've spent some time with that organization, and they've done a lot of research and a lot of things on senior housing. And 77% of seniors say they want to remain living in their home and their community. Sorry. And sometimes we use that term age in place, and that doesn't necessarily mean that's in the home that you like raised your family in. It could just be you want to stay in that community. But I feel like I have met a lot of people like Cindy and John who've come to be closer to family. I think Oregon has in the last 5 years. I've met a lot of people like, well, we moved here because our kids are here, or we're moving because our kids are moving, And so, I think that says a lot of like, you want to choose your community and develop what that looks like. However, only 10% of houses are age ready. And, we don't always just want to think walkers or whatever, but I think having it age ready and accessible, not only, if you become immobile, but they actually have it like, is it visitable? Because like, I had an older woman, a couple, like, they couldn't come visit my house because she had MS and she couldn't get up that one step. And that felt heartbreaking that I couldn't have her come because she couldn't get up that step, And so something we're really advocating is if we do have housing, to have it accessible. And AARP has on their website this whole home fit guide of like how to make it accessible, not only for walking, for reaching, thinking about when you get to your house, is there a place to sit down and take your shoes off? What is the clearance of your hallways to get around, things like that. So they have really great, the whole house to be accessible and visitable by people. And I mean, I look at 2030 and I'm like, that's a long way off. Like, that's 5 years, people. 2025, comes like 2 months. And by then we have 1 in 5 Americans who are over the age of 65. So they call it the senior tsunami, and it's here, and it will be here for the next decade. So our population is definitely changing. And I feel like some people take that statistic and they see the dollar signs. They're like, wow, we can make a lot of money off these people, And I think that is like where we're concerned, like that it is a very vulnerable population that I think we need to really fight for and advocate for. And also just, it's not just a money problem, it's not just a housing problem, this is just the new landscape of our nation, and how are we going to plan for that? And I think in some ways it seems desperate, but I think in some ways it gives me hope of opportunity, because this generation, this baby boom generation, has done so many things in our society over the course of their lives that I feel like this is just another reason they can do change, and make great strides and leave a great legacy. So next slide. So that it's not desperate, but just the challenges when we do face housing. And here's the things that we don't have enough housing. With that, we know that we need to double our marketing housing market. And unfortunately, Dane County is way behind on this. And there is a task force in Dane County Greater that I'm part of, that like, how can we collaborate? How can we get this working? Because there is a lot of barriers to break ground, as Ruth was kind of like, all the things to get housing, and it looks different. Is it cooperative living? Is it co-housing? Is it accessory dwellings? Is it apartments? Got that one going. And like our most recent senior housing here in the village is income restricted. So you have to qualify in order to live there. And if you live there and you suddenly increase your income, you have to. And so I have a friend living there that she's told her boss, please don't increase my pay because I will lose my housing. And that's her reality. So, and so one thing I personally advocate for my organization is really just trying to figure out housing for that middle class that doesn't qualify for the income restrictions, but is beyond what is currently on the market for high cost, which we'll get to with the current housing. And then another challenge is, with homes comes healthcare. And even before COVID, we had a healthcare shortage, and we have it even greater. And so I think in some ways it's going to look different just because we have to be innovative in how we do healthcare. That traditional model of going to the nursing home is it's broken, and it's going away. I mean, we even saw just this year Oregon Manor closed, and that was one of our few skilled care facilities, and it's getting remodeled, I think, just as senior apartments. I mean, we do have Sienna Crest, and then we also have Beehive, which is memory care. So we don't even have enough in our own village to take care of what we have. And then personally, just navigating this complex housing system that I'll go into in greater detail in this next slide. But there is a lot of choices, but those choices will come less and less. And it's kind of a scale of like, how much healthcare do you need and how much money do you have? And that's the very basics of it, of like, do you need healthcare? Well, yeah. And even to someone who's been in the human service industry for 2 decades, when I had to do it with my own family, it was so mind-boggling of all the things you need to know. And so that's kind of how it's become my personal passion to help other people, because when you're in it with family, it's a lot. And I think this new generation may not have family nearby that can help, or there's just so many more reasons why they may not have a team of people to work. And so knowing who can help is something we'll kind of wrap the program up on, like who's on our team and who can help us through this. So it's not all doom and gloom, but good to know. Just bad accent.
Bad slide.
Bad slide. Bad slide. Okay, next slide. So I kind of put the housing system choices into 5 major categories. There's all little subsets. But the first one is, being at home and receiving non-medical care. And that could be paid or not paid. Like you could have someone coming in to help you who's a family member or a neighbor, and that's still considered, having care at your house. And it's something that I did Comfort Keepers for 5 years. I really enjoyed doing that, and it helped me see what is possible if you really want to remain in your house. You can remain living independently while having someone help you with daily activities of living. That's maybe cleaning or laundry or food prep or transportation. And I think that's possible. I think that makes you stay where you want longer and helps you prepare for the next step. Yes. Because what I found in doing this is it's a learning curve to have someone come in and help do something that you've always been used to doing. Getting used to who they are, having someone come, it's a big trust issue. Even if it's bathing, like I met a gentleman and within 5 minutes he was naked and I had to give him a shower. And I felt like this is not the way it should be, but this is how it's happening. And he was older and didn't really have a choice, but I'm just like, wow, okay, but like that, it takes a lot to have someone care for you and learn that. And I feel like it's always going to take longer than you think. I mean, I always encourage my friends and clients, like, even if you don't think you need it, at least start the research of like what's out there, because there is a lot of, obviously I said I work for Comfort Keepers. There's other agencies that can help you with that. And then sometimes that goes to the next, more medical needs is having more of skilled medical care come in. And that could be like a visiting nurse, that could be someone physical or occupational therapy coming, even if it's just a short period of time. I know that the Senior Center had a grant that they used to help people get some non-medical and medical care coming to people's seniors' apartments if they needed that. Like my neighbor's aunt just had surgery, and so that helped get her from, okay, she just came home from the hospital, we have this for a short amount of time to help her get through that because her niece wasn't able to do all the help. Does that make sense? Do you have a question? Okay. And so that's just staying at home. And I'll say at home, and then if you're in an apartment, those top 3 ones, you still qualify for, I'll say, like county help or like the Senior Center services. Because once you get 4 and 5, you actually don't qualify for that case management. And I didn't know that till later. I was like, oh, well, essentially you're paying for them to do those things for you. So there's organizations, the ADRC, there's one in every community. We have it's Aging Disability Resource Center, and they can help you with a lot of different like case management. And they kind of also go through senior centers. So I'm not sure if people use the Senior Center services.
Well, I do.
Okay, and what do you use it for?
Strong woman class, the exercise class.
Yep.
Regularly. And then plus my husband had knee replacement.
Yep.
And they're wonderful about providing.
They have a huge equipment closet.
Yes.
If you ever need anything, they have everything.
It's awesome.
Yep. So I had a client that helped get like a bar to help her like just get out of bed easily, or a different walker, or they can help you with Meals on Wheels right now. They can help you with your, what I'm thinking, open enrollment is now, and they can help you with that as well. As well as I think sometimes taxes, depends how complicated it is. But I'm just saying, like, once you move out of that, like, you lose those opportunities. Granted, they're different, but I just think that was kind of the learning point that I didn't know that. I'm like, oh. So obviously, even just the independent senior apartments, there are some senior apartments that actually you can get like 27 hours a week or less in them. And so 3, 4, 5 starts like under the Department of Health Services, like if they're overseen by the health services, and that's where you can kind of start having, they're licensed and regulated because they're under that more health care. But then obviously there's apartments that are just apartments, that it's just living, and they can, cover your maintenance or whatever. And then number 4, so CBRF stands for Community-Based Residential Care, Community-Based Residential Facilities. And then there's other acronyms that are like retirement communities or continuum of cares. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with Scotland or Oakwood. Those are the big ones, like Scotland's in Stoughton, and they have what is a continuum of care, which is you can start living there independently, and as your needs change, you can get to assisted living or whatever. Oakwood is also that way, but it's usually in like metropolitan areas. There's not usually a small town option of that, and they cost more upfront. But you get that peace of mind if you're not leaving the campus per se. And then the CVRFs, they're more of the adult family homes and, well, technically, they all have different like skill levels of like who they have for nurses and nurse care and things like that. So it can be, like a memory care can be a CVRF, but a nursing home can be as well, or an adult family home, which I'll ask for. So all that to say, it just gets more and more complex, and we'll go back to these and like kind of like the cost of them, just to kind of know. And I feel like even these are changing because it is such a broken system, and they are really reinventing. I know out east they're really reinventing what those skilled care facilities look like. So skilled care is more like the traditional nursing home. And even those are maybe even going away. So I feel like this is what we have now, but I feel like it's good just to kind of understand that. Because even healthcare is changing in that maybe you only need rehab for a little bit, and then you can go back home, you know, or do you have care at home for a little bit, you know, so it's all trying to, and then you get technology, and that there's crazy mode stuff that MIT is talking about of like, you know, that you can get things on your phone that help you with all those care things. So, all that to say, I know that that's a lot, but I feel like it's good to just kind of understand your options, and that the one last thing I'll say is the farther you get down, the less choices you have. And the one thing I learned was when eventually my dad had to go to a memory care, and it really wasn't, we didn't really choose it, they chose him. They looked at what his needs were and what our money was, because that's all private pay. That's all private pay. So when your money runs out, you go. You have to go somewhere else. So that's also the transition to financial.
Yay!
Yay!
All right, so financial considerations as you start going through, or as you enter and go through retirement. Healthcare costs, they might start a little bit on the lighter side. You know, I have a lot of clients who are just entering retirement, and I show them what I have in their financial plan for our estimated costs for healthcare, and they're like, oh, I don't spend nearly that much. Like, right now. And as time moves on, maybe you need a few more medications, maybe you need a few more things that you need to have taken care of, maybe you need a few more surgeries, things like that. So what I have in people's plan is the national average for out-of-pocket healthcare costs, and it's around $6,000. So you're looking at $500 a month that you might be spending on healthcare. So as you're looking at your budget, and as you're looking at your income that you have coming in, what is the amount that you might need to be spending on healthcare? It could be up to $500 a month, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. Long-term care costs. This is going back to the slide that we just talked about. So what are the options that you have available for you as you want to either age in place or you need to move to memory care or something like that? So for kind of assisted living, so you know you still have people, you might be in a senior apartment and you have people who can come in. We're looking at national average again around $64,000 a year. So then maybe you want to stay in your home and you want to have somebody who's going to be able to come in and do in-home care. And so then we're looking at a national average around $68,000, $69,000 a year. Again, national average, a little bit less in the Midwest, but still not exactly cheap. And then we have the facility. This is where you might enter into more of a memory care situation and have more care that you might need. There we have a national average of $117,000 a year. It's $9,700 a year. And I know people in the Madison area talk about Attic Angel as one of these sort of, you know, kind of higher end sort of places. And you are looking at that roughly around $10,000, $11,000 a month that you're going to be spending to be there. So these things can get costly in a hurry. So then we talk about housing maintenance. So you want to stay at home. And you've already paid off your mortgage, that's great. You've got your property taxes, those are predictable. But then you have these maintenance costs of usually, I like to average around 1 to 2% of the value of the home per year. Maybe you don't spend that every year, but maybe some years you need to get both a new furnace and a new air conditioner. That's going to use up a bunch of years of that budget, right? And these sorts of things, we were talking about improving everything in the home, right? And making sure that you get out before you need to do it again.
Yeah, I feel like we're at that spot.
Yep. And if you have somebody who can do the work, that's fantastic. But what if you don't have somebody who's doing the work? Then you gotta spend more money to have somebody who's going to be coming in and doing all of this maintenance for you, or bringing in family members who are using their time and their energy to do this as well. And then, of course, inflation is something that we need to think about as we go into retirement as well. Inflation, on average, going back to the 1920s, is around 3.25%. Obviously, in the last few years, it's been a little bit higher. We're getting back down to the 2% target right now, which is great, but we don't know what it's going to be going forward. And so, as you look at the pot of money that you have, or the pots of money that you have when you're going into retirement, these are all the sorts of things that start to just eat away at it. So it's something to keep in mind. We are very doom and gloomy today.
I know. The giveaways will be more fun.
There we go.
But yeah, any specific questions about costs and things like that? Anything else that comes up, Sue, for you when people are planning?
I think some of the things that people don't think about when they're thinking about retirement as well, we're going to get into this kind of when we get into more of the MIT H Lab stuff, is do you have a car that you can rely on? Do you need to get a new car? A lot of times people are thinking, okay, this is going to be the last car that I'm going to get in my life. And we need to remember that we live in the state of Wisconsin that eats away at our cars. So what kind of maintenance do you have on the car? How long is that car going to last? How long can you drive that car? And if you can no longer drive, then how are you getting around and what are the costs associated with that? People often plan in big vacations and then they don't take them. And then I get upset because people need to take their vacations. One of the things that I really, really press on people is, as you're thinking about retirement, as you're starting to go into retirement, now is the time to take the vacations. And yes, I just talked about all of the things that are going to be eating into those pots of money. But if you put off that vacation for 5 years, you don't know what you're going to be like in 5 years. If you want to go somewhere and you want to go hiking, you go now. You make sure you do it, because if that is on your bucket list, you do it. And you don't. MITH lab questions. So I think in your bags, there is a flashlight. So this is, who will change my light bulbs?
And I think it's the battery so we didn't give you a bad one. It's not a bad one.
Or who will change the batteries in your flashlight?
Yes.
So I think about this. So this has to do with that home maintenance, right? Who's going to come in and who's going to change those light bulbs? My mom. So we lost my dad last year, and my brother is taller than me. And so when my brother comes to visit my mom, my brother changes the light bulbs. He goes around in the kitchen and he's changing the light bulbs. When I go to visit my mom, she doesn't want to get on a ladder and get the things that are on the top shelf of the storage. So I find myself, okay, let's go down to the basement because we're going to take everything off of the top shelf and we're going to put it on the floor so mom can go through it and figure out what's going to get sold and what's going to move with her to the next place. So who are the people who are going to be doing the things in your house? Do you have a handyman? Do do you live with a handyman? And how much does that person want to be doing? Who do you have who can come over and do all of these things for you?
And I think even just at the end of the season of just like cleaning up your yard, like, do I really want to be doing this anymore?
Or shoveling.
Or shoveling, yeah.
Who wants to risk slipping on ice? And I thought about this with my mom last year. She was saying that she was going to be going out and she was going to be clearing the driveway. And we had, well, maybe it was, I can't remember how much snow, but it was enough that I'm like, no, Mom, we're finding somebody else to take care of this for you. It's heavy snow. You're not going to go out there with a shovel and spend 3 hours trying to clear your driveway. No, that's not happening. So, yeah, who's going to take care of the lawn? Who's going to mow the lawn? Who's going to shovel the snow? Who's going to take care of all of those things?
Yeah. The next question.
They don't do it right.
And that's where we have to get used to people helping us, Dawn.
They don't do it right. I want to go around the edge and then you're going to trim that. And then you're going around to the next edge and you will trim that. Oh, we're just around the edge. It's close enough. No, it's not.
Yeah, and that's just that give and take of like getting used to someone doing stuff.
I have this argument with my husband every year because I plan for a lot of snow. Whether or not we get a lot of snow, I plan for a lot of snow. And where does the snow early in the season go in order to make room for the snow that's later on in the season? So I got angles that I'm going on and everything, and then he comes in and he just puts it all in one place. And I'm like, that is going to be in my way for a month.
And you'll get more.
No system, but he helped, and you gotta accept it when you get the help. I'll let you an ice cream cone. So this goes back to that traveling. How are you going to get from point A to point B? Do you have a reliable car? Do you have a way to get to the ice cream shop? Do you have the ability to go there when you want, right? If you don't have a vehicle of your own or you can't drive and you have to accept somebody else's help, if you want an ice cream cone now, do you have to wait 2 hours to get it? So how are the ways that you're getting around in the world and getting to the things that you need? How are you getting out to the grocery store? How are you getting out to Target or wherever that might be? How are you doing all of those things?
The senior center will take you to the library or to Walmart. I don't think they'll take you for an ice cream cone.
They used to have Ziggy's, so.
That's right.
But also in your giveaway is an ice cream scoop that does change colors. So if you can't go anywhere,
Oh, I see it.
But yeah, and to Sue's point, like my dad had a stroke, and so then he lost the sight in one of his eyes, and so he couldn't drive anymore. And so that, that was a medical thing of just like, oh, well, you can't drive anymore. That changes life very differently, I guess our mics are just being difficult for me. And then our next prompt is who will I have lunch with? Which kind of goes with Ziggy's too. But just like, if you move to a new community, who are the people you go to lunch with? Who is your community? And what does that look like? Just go to Firefly because everyone's there. It's our coffee shop. And yeah, as we get to it of I had a client who sold their house and where they could find an opening and what they could afford, she had to move to Cottage Grove. And then she moved there and then realized she knows no one and it's really isolating and this was a really bad move. But they didn't think about that. They were just thinking, housing, great, we can afford this, there's an opening, let's just get mom there. she had no one to go to lunch with. And then she eventually moved here to Oregon. This is where I met her and I was caring for her. And then she got involved in the senior center, and that saved her life because she was going to the senior center and had a heart attack. And obviously the EMS was right there to be able to revive her right there. And it's just like, because she had people in her community, it actually saved her life, you know, and keeping up with those relationships and things like that. But yeah.
Yeah, I think about my mom, and part of the efforts of getting the things from the top shelf down to the floor so she can sell them is because she wants to move into senior housing where she lives. And part of the appeal of moving there is she already knows a whole bunch of people who live there, people that she plays cards with on a regular basis. And she's like, well, how great would it be if I could just be down the hall from them instead of having to drive to go and see them since we get together on a weekly basis anyway. So she wants to move there so she can be around her friends.
Yeah. That's all the prompts. We don't have a fun prop for the lunch one, do we?
I don't think so. You're
Well,
just
I
going to
guess-
have ice cream.
Okay. Let's say the first aid kit is lunch. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, yes. So yeah, into that, like, who's on your team? I think you were going to talk a little about the healthcare.
Yeah, just making sure that you have people available and you have things in place should anything happen. So healthcare and financial powers of attorney, making sure that should anything happen to you, there's somebody who can speak for you, or there's somebody who can do things for you. One thing that I didn't put on the slide that I was thinking about while you were talking a little bit earlier is there are people who are daily money managers. And those are people who might be able to come into your house and help you organize your bills, help you organize your mail, and figure out where the money needs to go on a regular basis when things just get a little too complicated. So maybe that's somebody who's going to be on your team. Who are your emergency contacts? And do they check in with you on a regular basis? So while I was putting these slides together, my brother called, but it wasn't my brother. My brother has set up a little Google Nest thing for my mom, and it goes through his phone number. So if she needs to contact me through that at any point, it comes through as my brother's name. So now I will always pick up my phone when my brother calls. So she's guaranteed that. But while I was putting the slides together, my mom called to let me know that she had lost her phone and was wondering if I could call her phone so she could find it, right? And so we then got off the phone and I called my mom 7 or 8 times, and at that point realized I had no way of getting in touch with my mom because we did not know where her phone was. I couldn't call her back through the Google Nest. And so I sent her an email thinking maybe mom will check her email. And then sent my brother a text message saying, I don't know what to do. What are we supposed to do here? My brother's texting back with some long-term sort of solutions to the problem of, well, we need to figure this out so mom has a better phone or whatever it might be. And I'm thinking, short term, I gotta get on the road and go and check with mom, right? Mom is an hour away. I need to get on the road and make sure that mom's okay. Put everything away, got in the car, started driving. My mom called from mom's phone when I was about a half hour on the road. And said, well, I found my phone, it was in the linen closet, don't know why I put it there, but here we go. And I'm like, great, I'm on my way to see you. Do you want me to stop in? And she's like, no, I'm fine. And so I turned around, came back, and went to work on the slides again. Yeah. But who are those emergency contacts? Do they have a way of getting in touch with you? And do you have a way of getting in touch with them should anything happen? Password security.
Oh,
So-
we're going to pause. Dawn helped pack this, so she knows there's a file blank there. And we both admitted that we have one, but we haven't filled it out. Does someone have it and not fill it out? So it's a very handy thing to have. It also has the wrapper for the fire department. They put that in. So if you want easy money, you can do your raffle. for the tree lighting. But it's also very helpful, and you put it on the fridge, and then it has all your emergency contacts on there. But also to know, I learned this when I was caring for my client. She lived in an apartment, and how was the fire department going to get into her house, or her apartment? She had a key box on it, and so you can tell the 911 system if you have a key fob or a certain code to get into your house, so they don't have to break in if they have an emergency. You can also tell them if you have a dog or a cat. You can tell them if you are on oxygen, which is very handy for a firefighter to know, as well as any medical conditions or things. So I just want to let you know that if you want the emergency response system to know anything, that is an ability to have that. Especially even just Beloit or whatever. It can be anywhere. It's in that system. To have that. So good to know who that emergency is and have it listed. And I will fill it up if you fill it up.
I'll be filling mine up.
But it's hard because I think it changes. Like, well, who will be mine? Okay, well, my sister lives in Wanakee. Is she mine? Like your sister, but she lives 35 minutes away. I don't know. Or is it my neighbor, but she never answers her phone? I gotta think about this. Yep. So that is one of the giveaways. So, and if you win the raffle, you need to give someone the test. This guy. I did too. Now to password
I'm
security.
going to put you down as my emergency contact.
Sure.
So you will show up at the house.
Sure. I know where you live.
You know where I live.
But you can't all put Anna as your emergency.
Yeah.
Let me know.
Yes, we can.
Password security. One of the reasons why I have this on here is because after my dad passed away, this was basically our checklist. My dad had put all of his username and passwords and all of his normal websites on a spreadsheet and had printed it out. It was sitting on the desk in his office. And if he hadn't had that, I don't know what we would have done. And so, had I seen it before my dad passed away, I would have talked to him about having duplicate passwords.
Right out in the open.
Right out in the open. But making sure that you have a list of passwords, preferably in a more secure place. If it's on a piece of paper, lock it up somewhere. There are a lot of password keepers out there. LastPass, 1Password, a number of things like that where you can electronically store your passwords. If you do something like that, or if you have it locked in a box, make sure that somebody else knows where the key is. Make sure that somebody else knows that it's there. Make sure that somebody else has the password to the password keeper. So they know if anything happens to you, they can get into your email. They can pay the energy bill. They can do all of those things that you might have done electronically. So just make sure that that's secure and you share that with other people. For my dad, again, it became kind of a checklist. Where did Peck have accounts that we need to be funding right now? What are the things that he logged into on a regular basis that we need to kind of check on? So that helped as well. Handyman, we've kind of been over this, but that's the person who's on your team, right? Somebody who can come over and fix things, and somebody that you trust. And if it's not something that a handyman can do, make sure you have somebody you trust that you can go to and say, hey, I need to get a new roof on the house. Who would you recommend that I call? Don't wait for some fly-by-night company to come to your door. Make sure you know somebody, a trusted realtor or something like that, that you can go to that knows, like, here are a list of people that you want to work on your furnace, that you want to work on your roof, that you can trust, and make sure you're prepared for the things that might happen.
Yeah, and I think even with technology of having, I think technology can help you with all those things, especially even just they have Angie's List now of if I don't have, know someone who can help, there is accredited places out there. But I think it's good to have that before something happens. mom lost power, and it's just like, okay, how are we gonna do this? And so, yeah, my brothers had to figure that out, how to get a generator, because I think it was like in the middle of winter, and yeah. So having that, someone who's either local, like your neighbor, or someone that you trust to like help, like she's like, my garage door opener doesn't work. I'm like, okay, you have the list of the person who helped us put it in, things like that. Yeah, I think it's just the point of like, who is on your team to help, because you shouldn't be alone in this, and I think that's the major point that we're trying to make in this program.
Right. For us with our mom, there's us 3 kids and mom, and none of us live in the same city. And so my mom's minister asked if we wanted to be on a text chain with him. And he's like, I would love to send you a text on a Sunday morning and say, hey, mom was in church this morning, she did that. Something that can put all of us at ease. Or mom was in church this morning, maybe you should give her a call. So have somebody around that you can also trust who might be a little bit more local if you are reaching out to loved ones as well.
And I think the senior center has that, where they do have a phone call, right?
Yes. Even the exercise class has a phone list.
Yes.
So, yes, in case somebody doesn't show up for a class and they're older.
Right.
We had a lady that was 100 years old in that class, and she recently passed away, and everybody knew her address, her email, and her, we knew ways to contact her to find out what was going on.
Yeah, so it's just good to, and there's even technology out there, like if you aren't connected, like someone get a phone. I have a friend who like, her grandson made her an app to like check in, what is Granny doing? What did you have lunch today? I was like, I think he was like 8 years old, he made this app for his granny.
Oh, that's so great.
Why did you answer, Granny?
That's so great. We had somebody for the Northside Planning Council, Feed Kitchen, made cookies. And she didn't show up for work one day, and she was so very consistent. And so immediately, the executive director of the Planning Council knew that something was wrong. And so we started calling her, we got in touch with her husband who was on the road, and so they had to figure out like how to get into the house. And it ended up that she had in fact passed away that morning. And it was one of those things where even if she was 10 minutes late, somebody knew there would have been a problem. And thankfully she had created this huge community around her that everybody knew how to try and see if she was going to be okay.
So yeah, I think just all these is just helping you see like who's on your team and prompts to think about things you may want to work on or other things. Is there any other questions? Why things are in your giveaway? Tape measure for making sure things are accessible. What else was in there? The first aid kit was in there. Yes.
I just have a question. Do you have any thoughts on long-term care insurance? Is that really changed? Are people still buying it? I mean, I know it's
I haven't.
Yeah.
I know my husband wouldn't be able to take care of me, so I can take care of him, but
It can definitely be financially life-saving. You really got to pay attention to how that long-term care policy handles expenses, whether or not there's an inflation adjustment to it, because inflation will just eat away at that real fast. Some long-term care policies, you have to be like taking copies of receipts and turning all of that in, and you might not want to go through all of that trouble. So, and then there are a lot of long-term care policies that don't necessarily cover all of the expenses that you think that they might cover. So really make sure you look into the policy and have another set of eyes looking at it, thinking about all of the things that you might not be thinking about, because they absolutely can be financially life-saving, right? When it covers expenses, it is fantastic. So just make sure that you get a policy that can age with you.
Yeah, and I would add that actually Sue, the other Sue, that I cared for, she was the one who she was able to have me come in and help because long-term care covered that, as well as some home maintenance, like they had the windows washed because, she had this, and we got it. My husband works for insurance so that he can read all those policies and know, and it's really evolved over the years, and obviously it's more expensive if you buy it as you are older versus when you are younger, but it can be very helpful as you are planning with all your other financial considerations.
And the best question is, tell me what it doesn't cover.
Correct. Yeah.
What doesn't this policy cover? What doesn't it? That's better than what doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good to just understand it. And yeah, usually it's sold by a financial planner so they can kind of understand the product that they're trying to sell you. But yeah, it can be very beneficial. So I have had clients that they were using it actively by having me come in and help. And so, and something actually I didn't cover is another way that you can be covered is if you are a veteran. There is benefits if you are a U.S. vet in care and housing and things like that. Ruth, I know you talked just a little bit about life leases and stuff like that. I know that's, I'm not sure if anyone is curious about how that works of housing and things like that.
Life lease estates,
Yeah.
those kind of things.
Well, so it's kind of, I think it's similar to rolling meadows. It's where they own the land and you have a buy-in at a certain price for the housing, and then you're guaranteed 90% of that pay-in price when you move out. But there's a period of time, you're not guaranteed to just the day you move out, you get your $90,000. And that, I think, is how they kind of got caught in a lawsuit because they didn't have it documented like that. So 5 people left, they wanted their money back, they didn't have the money there, so. But then after the lawsuit, but the premise is you're guaranteed 90% out but they have monthly maintenance fees. They have people that come into, so it's kind of like it includes the hand, it includes the maintenance of the building, it includes the grounds maintenance and all that kind of stuff. There is, I don't want to take away from your program, but there is, because I'm acquiring information, because I want to know where I'm going to go, but there's, on Terra Vesta. There's a senior, maybe I saw you at that meeting. There's a senior, it's called Cesta.
Yes, and it hasn't been built yet, but they're still.
No, but it has not been built, you're right. They're not planning on even breaking ground until 2026, 27. I think
Yeah,
it is.
it got backed up again a little bit.
But the fascinating thing about this is it's kind of like you're building your community and getting to meet your neighbors before they even build the building.
Yeah.
And they just recently got here, actually, why don't you pass this around?
Do you know what my husband
you don't have to
doesn't
do
like
that.
about Cesta is that, have you seen all the houses and all the condos and all the apartments?
Very detached.
All
It is
huge.
It's crazy how fast those buildings have gone up around where Cesta plans to build. He said, no way, no how.
So
The
I guess,
traffic will
yeah,
be
it is very
horrible
expensive
there.
and it will be very crowded.
Yeah,
But it's
very crowded.
it's still an option,
It's an option, yes, and it's very expensive too. Yeah.
I think the thing that I like about it, what we're trying to get here in Oregon, is how you help to bring the people who want to live there through the development process so that they can kind of share their ideas and how they want their community to live.
Right.
And I think they do that by inviting people to these kind of meetings. And they, so I think, so I signed up just so I could stay on their mailing list to see how they have community gatherings, just like when you start a co-housing neighborhood or community, you spend time just getting to know your neighbors, and then, you put a deposit down, that's 100% refundable. But I just was fascinated of how you can help to bring community first. It's kind of like you get your little warriors, so that way we can get city approval for our big, living space where we want to be.
Yeah.
So that's what I
got to meet the developer.
But it is,
It's very pricey,
It's
but
very pricey.
it's just another option in Pittsburgh for that.
And Terabithia, there you go. Terabithia is not a neighborhood I would live in, but the space that they have set aside
It's pretty big.
for the senior is right, across the street from the restaurants and the coffee shops and the elementary school. So if you volunteer, participate.
You can get an ice cream cone.
It's, but I think, and there's other things, but that life lease estate stuff is where you don't own the dirt, but you pay in your maintenance fees, for other people to help take care of it, but you're guaranteed buyout, and if you have to go to assisted living or memory care, it's kind of like a home equity, home credit. You can use your equity of your property to pay for your continuing care, so you don't have to move, or when the money's gone, they kick out.
I'm not sure. So is that different than this Oakwood and Scullin and all that?
Those are all life leases.
What are they called?
Life leases.
Life lease estates.
Yeah, and
Those are all
communities
places.
is the same. Yep.
I talked through a client with this today, and she was talking about, what are the different buy-in amounts that you have to do versus the amount that you're going to have to pay in maintenance on a monthly basis, because sometimes it's $500 a month, sometimes it's $2,000 a month, depending on
How they priced it.
But you pay on the value of the property that where you're going to live in. So you buy it, say a 1,500 square foot,
You buy the right to live there.
and it'll be different sizes.
Yeah, it's usually about the same. Basically the same. It's basically the same. Yeah.
But it's there, and then you have to continue if you need additional help, or if you want to.
If you want to move, you get the money back. Does that make sense? It's not necessarily.
If you age in place, then you get, since you're starting in the senior apartment space, then you get to jump ranks to the memory care, to the assisted living and all of that.
Yeah, that's the
So you don't
continuing care.
So are you
That's not
paying?
Rolling Meadows.
That's not.
Correct.
Rolling Meadows is more
Just
living.
Just living.
Whereas Scullin, they have the different steps.
Yeah.
You're not paying property taxes like
Nope.
you're in a
You pay
condo
a percentage, very, very minimal.
Yep.
each year.
I'm trying to remember what I've seen, maybe $100 a year.
Yeah, so you don't pay your
It's
school
very,
taxes, you pay
very,
police
very
fire. Yeah.
So what are the, do you know what the Rolling Meadows monthly fee is?
$425, I think.
$425? Yeah, I used to have a really good friend that lived there for years.
But yeah, that's just another option. I just kind of want
Yeah,
it's just a lot to know. So that's why I know it's a lot of information, but
it's
It was
And that's
something
what-
Oregon didn't have.
yes.
And Chuck kind of used the model of Scullin to start this. And it was, it was very positive at the beginning. And then they hit this little bump in the road. And I think they've reorged now. And people are very happy. The waiting list is tremendous.
They have an active list and an inactive list.
Yep.
housing.
Yep.
It's duplexes.
It's flat, it's all one level, it's easy. The only, the person I knew who lived there, she was, floors would get cold because it was on the seats.
Yeah, it's not a slab.
That's the only
And,
thing. But she had a beautiful unit that backed up to the great space and cafes.
This is not small.
I'm definitely curious about how Green Pastures is coming along. If you found land, if you, and
Well,
about how far out that would be.
yeah. Thank you But obviously, the one in Oregon obviously is, would be great. But yeah, it will just take a longer time to negotiate, and, you know, you have to get the zoning and all the things, but we hope soon.
Oh, okay.
Optimistically break ground next year, that would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it would be similar to Rolling Meadows in that live lease and the duplexes and things like that. So that is the hope. That's just another option. So, but thank you for asking.
Sure.
We are working very hard as we
Well, I
can.
figured you probably were, and I was kind of hoping we would hear something, but, okay.
Yeah, I know. It always goes slower than you think. But then I think once it is going, it will go quickly, if that makes sense. But yeah, so.
And then you're planning at least a 2-step, or are you planning a 3-step?
Like stages?
Yeah, stages, yeah, I should call them stages.
Stages. It depends on the property and the negotiations, but yeah, hopefully to build some duplexes and then another stage of them. And then, yeah, we have different properties and different, I guess, timelines, I'll say. But yeah, that's the hope. The problem is Oregon doesn't have many options for growth, and it's very expensive. So, but there's a huge need for it. So,
Is it that much cheaper just going to Janesville, getting into Rock County versus Dade County?
not necessarily, but it's just the two opportunities we have right now. But yeah, we just hope to like get it built and then reproduce it where we can, and just to make it affordable for middle class people, and because the Cessna is kind of out of the price range of most people. So
So it's another long lease? It's a
it
long-
would be another life lease.
Life lease.
Yes, I know. It's all these terms are just so extremely. And it's very common in the senior industry is the life lease. And to complicate it more, we might have a land lease too. So, oh my goodness. I can just confuse myself talking.
There's a lot of moving parts.
It is a lot of moving parts, but we're very hopeful to get community support, and to really just build something that the community wants, and that it's not outside investors. Because most senior living, like Cessna, like it has a local, kind of, the guy who owns the land is local but lives in Arizona now, but of just like, the price is higher because they have to get all these outside investors and pay them back. And that's why the housing is so much more expensive. And so like, how can we build something just by using what our community has for the price that they can afford? So that's really kind of what we're hoping to do.
I have to say, one thing I did like about Cessna though is that the luminous community is local
Yeah.
to the state of Wisconsin.
I like the housekeeping
And
option.
they just, you know, I guess they come from, they own a lot of different
They do.
healthcare facilities within the state. As opposed to where you're seeing some of the senior housing is owned, it's like what you said, from people out of the state
Yes.
that are just running the
Yep.
paychecks.
Yep.
My folks are paying $10,000 a month
Yep.
for rent.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and that's kind of the decline of nursing homes and all the assisted living. Like, they're all owned by someone not living in this, so there's no accountability. And it's really just a matter of, is it making money? How do we make money? And that's
how do they make more
unfortunate.
money?
How do we make more
They
money?
got the
How do we
nurse,
cut it?
they got the nurse now, the one RN, who is in charge of being the nurse at 5 different assisted living places via the computer.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, she's not even on site anymore. How do you do that? So-
Yeah, like the person who owns Oregon Manor doesn't even live here. He lives in Kentucky.
See, we should kind
So
of
how as a
restrict
community,
these
we can
hobbies.
gather and kind of pool our own resources. So that's the hope.
So how much, can I ask how much land did you, because I'm curious, how much land were you looking to purchase for your community?
Like
Your
100
initial,
acres or 50
like,
acres or
small or
No,
big?
like, I would say the different stages are 1 acre, 2 acres, and that's hopeful, because Oregon just does not have a lot of available land out here. Because they're all owned by big developers. Like Viridian has their own, and, Lennar has their own, like, everyone, all the big developers have the the chunks already owned, and only they can develop on them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess sometimes what I run across is farmers that don't want the development, that
Correct.
don't want the meridian, and will put conservation easements on the land and affiliate with conservancy groups
Yep.
and stuff like that for maintenance and things like that. So I was just curious if maybe there was a farmer there who might be more inclined to, if they don't have the family to pass it down to, if they know you could build them a senior place where they can stay on their land and own a
Yeah.
unit.
Ideally, that's our hope, but then you face all the zoning. So once you're outside the village zoning, then you can't do what I want to do. So you can't put that many houses together.
In the town of
Town of
Oregon?
Oregon.
Really?
Because it's zoned.
I would expect that for sure, top done.
Yeah, I was gonna say town of Dunn, maybe you can't do anything in that, but.
Yeah, so they just approved different comprehensive plans that is restricted. So you have to prove concept, which I'm trying to do. So once you prove concept, how can you have, oh, this isn't as bad as I thought. So you have to prove that the zoning is appropriate and that, that is the hope.
Don't you think there's gonna be some zoning changes though?
There is
Coming down with like
Yes.
with the housing shortage because.
Or even
it's-
a government program that can help like a developer like you. If there's some way that they can, Oregon has to see a need for this, and I would think they would
They
come up
do
with
see
some
the need.
idea.
However, the housing that I want to build for middle class doesn't qualify for any government. Yeah. Because the majority of the people that live in Oregon are outside of those income restrictions that I was talking about. So if you are essentially what I call the retired workforce, so if you worked and you have savings, you don't qualify for any government housing. So, all that to say, there should be help. They understand it, and they are making strides. It's just, I feel like there will be changes coming, because one of the most prohibitive is most people in the country live in single-family houses. Well, that's not built in community. But how do you define family? There is a big percentage of people who are in the baby boom generation that aren't even married. And that's prohibitive. You can't live with someone you're not related to.
And what type of zoning are you having it?
If it's single family, it had how do you define that? I won't get into all the basics, but I'm just like, there's some challenges, but there's also opportunities, like if you change what is multi-family, how do you define family? How many people? So if anything, to answer that question, it still will be small scale. It won't be the huge Cessna, huge complexes. It will be scattered small housing, because I feel like that's what a small community wants anyways. You don't want to live with 150 people. You want to live with maybe 5, maybe 4.
I agree with that. I mean, this is, it's something, like I said, I brought it just because I think the way that they developed it, but I like
And
this
he's
one.
done a lot of other developments around here. Like he's done Swan Creek. He's done other ones in Pittsburgh. But yeah, so he understands that concept. Yes.
Are you considering doing I guess what would be called a tiny house model? Not quite tiny home,
Yep, I know.
but in that community, so it's not like apartment or condo per se. Is that something you're exploring on your first stage?
So
or
tiny
down
home,
the line?
unfortunately, is not conducive to accessibility. So usually tiny homes you cannot get around in them very well.
Okay. Well, I guess I use that term loosely.
Yes.
I just think
The official term,
you know,
would be
yeah,
good.
would
But
be
I
good.
think-
But,
yeah.
a bedroom, an open kitchen, dining, like a nice, just a small, but that is more of, maybe it's the size of an apartment or smaller, but it's
Yeah.
more of your home as opposed to a big shared, massive building. I just see that being kind of the future, like the ideal future for a lot of folks who are, in retirement age, and then it can integrate like all the levels of care, really.
Yep.
Highlighted later.
It kind of goes into co-housing. So there are housing where you don't have an autonomous You might have your own bedroom, but you share the common spaces of the kitchen. So it's smaller.
That's cooperative housing,
Yeah.
co-housing, they're different.
Correct, yes. I'm just like, it's referring to like, there is many different options.
Yeah.
And Wisconsin's not doing great with all this different housing options, but it's so good to see what Minnesota is doing, and Iowa, and now East is doing. Like it is great to learn on what they are doing and bring it to Wisconsin, because we're not doing so good. But there is pockets of communities that are doing that. But yeah, I feel like I really advocate for the accessibility. So sometimes when you're thinking small, most people think small because then it's more affordable. But then you lose that ability to get around it.
Yeah.
So I mean, just build smart.
To be specifically built that's completely accessible. And
Yeah.
the layout makes sense and all that. No, it just seems like a really logical step, but I don't see it around here.
Yeah. And the reason why they don't build a lot of houses for middle class and they're just building kind of to Bergamot is because they can't. It doesn't cost that much money, much more. Like, why would you build a lower priced house when you can build a bigger priced house? So that's why it's like the missing middle, the missing, there's just no like small houses built anymore because the people who are building them just don't build them because why would I when I can make more money?
But that's the thing, that it's consistent across, not just seniors, it's, so many of the places that we live now are missing the middle for anybody who wants to have a starter home or just a middle-class family that wants to just have a standard home.
I think it's even culture driven.
And I'm sure you look between Oregon and Brooklyn too, because Brooklyn would be a little less, but I know that they're building too quite a bit over there. I mean, I can't believe how Brooklyn has grown. So probably that's not even.
Brooklyn in the Dane County part, not the other part. The town of Brooklyn is also not very friendly.
Okay.
But yeah, but it's also like there's a million houses off the market because seniors want to move and have no place to move. And so those houses could be those starter homes.
Yep.
And so that is just, it's all related, that we need to think about it. And it's really just the motivation and the money and, there are other people doing it, but most people who are building, I'd say, either low income and they get the tax credits, and that's really the only
Huge
why.
apartment complex.
Yes, so the apartment complex, right there, they got tax credits to do it, but then that's income restrictive. So then you can't even move there. So.
Those are tiny.
I know, yes, yeah. And even just the duplexes or the senior, well, I shouldn't say they're senior, the smaller houses going off to the edge of they're like $450,000, $500,000 for not that much big a space.
And they're really one story.
And they're not even accessible. And it's like, why are we doing this?
Are you talking about the shotgun houses?
Yes. There's going to be like 40, 50 of them, all on top of each other. Yeah.
40 or 50?
If you see the lot sizes, they're all little like cheesecake sections. Yes.
Housing density, I mean, that's one.
It is an option, but it's not for
In a
everyone.
community where we don't have much industry to bring in tax money.
Yep.
We
Yes.
had more of that,
Yes.
but we've always been.
We just need to have a variety.
This is why I was so happy to learn about what Ann was doing.
Yes.
Because that's an option that is simply not available. And so to be starting to create that idea and to build on that, giving people the opportunity to see that pumpkin patch when they walk out there. I mean,
Yeah, that was Brooklyn back when, yes.
but that's just, that's not something that has been available, and it's great to have people who are thinking about these ideas of like, what is the life that people want to live, and let's make sure it's available for them.
Yes.
So just a clarification, because they're relatively new. So when you talk about all this new development
Yep.
out there, so it is low-income housing, or it's not, or it's?
Some of the apartments are low income.
So they have to apply, and they have to be within.
Yep. They have to show that this is all their income.
Some of the apartments.
Yes. And there are some senior
Usually
ones.
the whole building. It's usually a
It
percentage.
depends on how they got it built, though, yes.
But I mean, you know,
Okay.
But then these shotgun houses, they're just like maybe 1,500 square footage and so it's.
Oh, no,
They're 13.
no, aren't they right around 900 to 1,000?
It depends, I think I looked at one that was 12 or 13, so they're not that big.
So they're supposed to be affordable compared to
Kind of.
living.
Yes.
Yeah. They have a garage there too.
They do have a garage, yes. They're about the same square footage as the duplex I'm hoping to.
So tiny house, kind of, but
Kind
not
of,
really
not really.
accessible, not
Yeah,
really.
2-bedroom, 2-bath, and 2-car garage.
Not really the
So-
best move for someone.
I
Yeah,
almost fell over when I heard the price of one of those things.
Yeah.
You're kidding.
yeah. They are pretty pricey.
So that's the combination back there.
Back there, yeah, they're like
Apartments
just on CC. But yeah, so just appreciate you coming out, and I hope it was hopeful and informative, and thank you for celebrating our anniversary. Yeah, so these are our emails and phone number, and even QR code from our website. But I asked someone.
Yeah, I got a couple,
Maybe we should switch. Oh, so you're buying.
Smart.
There you go.
5 years.
I got like 5.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much.
so you're gonna let us